So let's get into sales success secrets, how to make more money, help more people, and to live an empowered life. And when we started off today, we went over what is sales. And there is a ton of ways to kind of synthesize sales down into a word, a phrase, or anything like that. But the main thing that we want to talk about today about sales is goal-oriented communication. Sales, when we come into a sales encounter, and specifically a linguistic encounter, whether that be in person or over the phone, us as sales people, which is not a bad word, being a salesperson in itself, it's actually we're providing a very valuable service, helping people overcome some sort of roadblocks or apprehensions towards taking the action that they already should be taking, not convincing people to do things they shouldn't be doing. That's the number one difference between being a professional salesperson and being a con artist, is your intent behind helping people take action. What we do specifically is help people take action that they should be making. It's not convincing them to do something that they shouldn't. Big caveat there. But specifically going over goal-oriented communication. And as a salesperson, what's your goal? We know at the heart of it is to sell a house, right? And specifically what we're going to be talking about during this training and the subsequent trainings as we go further down the line of sales skills is specifically about taking more listings, because there's a lot that we do during the day, but specifically what we want to get better at is taking more saleable listings. Now, my goal, speaking of goal-oriented communication with this training and specifically this recording today, is going over how to help you become more intentional on the things that you are already doing and maybe helping uncover why it is that you are successful and how to do more of that, and as well as what are the things that are holding you back. Also helping you think differently about sales, but also about what you do on a daily basis, and ultimately helping you get better results. Because I've found through years of working with real estate agents and salespeople as a whole is there's really two types of people specifically in sales. And that's number one, the type of people who get everything that they want, sometimes seemingly effortless, where others are stuck with taking what they can get. And specifically when it comes to top producers unconsciously are running a strategy. And when you ask them, what is it that makes them successful? Most of the time, they actually don't know what it is that makes them successful. And a lot of the time, they don't even know how to think any other way than how a top producer thinks. So a lot of them will say something to the effect of, well, I just do what it takes, or I never quit, and I just kind of all of that. But at the end of the day, what really happens is top producers have uncovered a way of how to communicate things in a linguistic encounter in a way that works. A lot of them do it unconscious, and they don't even know what they're doing. So the goal today is to help you, if you're not a top producer, teaches you how a top producer thinks unconsciously, and if you are that top producer, to help you uncover what it is that actually makes you successful so you can be more intentional about doing that even more. And if you've ever watched or read anything about personal development or learning and learning how people learn, there's usually 4 stages of learning. Number 1 is that unconscious incompetence, or the I don't know what I don't know stage, but there's that level of excitement that gets you into the business and really kind of getting you started. And then there's what's called conscious incompetence, where you actually find out all the things that you don't know. And usually that's that terrified, or what we'll call that ouch phase here, where our job is to help take you from that consciously incompetence to now becoming consciously competent. Well, now you know what you're doing, but you have to consciously think every single time. So there's a lot more preparation that goes into your success, rather than at the end, the 4th stage, which is unconscious competence, where it just becomes second nature. The only way to go from stage 3 to stage 4 is more repetition, putting in the reps where it just becomes natural to what you do. How we're going to talk about it today is strategic preparation. Because when we are going through these conversations, where we're going into these sales encounters, what you want to do, and the thing that really sets us apart from all of the other animal kingdom, is we have the ability to utilize our imagination and to think into the future. Now, sometimes that really hurts us and that produces anxiety where we're nervous to get into an encounter. However, if it's used properly, you can think through all of the possible suggestions or possibilities and think up of how to overcome objections before they even come up. Because the best way to deal with objections is up front. So, the question that I posed today in class is how many times will we be having these conversations? And of course, the answer is a lot. We're going to be having these same level conversations, whether it's for listing presentations, buyer consultations. How many times are we engaging with people at open houses or knocking on doors or just responding off of inquiries? So we might as well plan them out in advance, because the benefit that we have is that this will be one of many of these sales encounters where this might be the only time that our consumer engages in a conversation like this. So if we plan our conversations out in advance, we can stack the deck in our favor to help the clients ethically and elegantly go through this process correctly. And the big grand claim of today is that every sale is the same. Now, I know that you're immediately going to say, no, it's not. Every single sale I've ever had has always been different. There's been different scenarios and all of that. True. However, every single sale, there are certain core elements that all happen regardless. And what we're going to be sharing with today is specifically how you can crack the code of sales, specifically for us as real estate agents. Now, I want you to think about this as if you are a grand safe cracker or someone who knows how to be a locksmith. Now, this has been used a number of times, and I've really been given a lot of this information. I'm not taking credit for any of this. However, think about how a master safe cracker works, how they get into safes. Every single time, the combination might be different. However, a master safecracker understands the inner workings or how a lock mechanism actually works. So they know that the same type of safe cracking will work as long as you know what you're looking for and as long as you know specifically what to listen for. Because how a safe cracker works is they'll put their ear to the safe, turn the dial in the direction that they know that every single safe that they've worked with operates on, and they listen for click. Then they know, now I need to switch directions to go the other way until click. Then they turn it one more time the opposite direction till they click. They turn the handle and the safe opens. Because they know so well the inner workings or the inner mechanisms of how safes operate, they can crack the code every single time, even though the numbers may change. So even though the details of a sale might change, the inner workings and the mechanism of the sale will remain the same. Now, the challenge that we have over safe crackers is we don't actually take the time in advance to learn how the mechanism of a sale works. So rather than listening to the clicks, we're constantly reinventing the wheel and reinventing what it is that we say, and you don't have the ability to listen for the click. And that's what I'm going to share with you guys today. Because one of the favorite ways of kind of really illustrating this is looking at these 2 points. That's the open and the close, or the time you meet the client until you close with them or until they give you the listing. And we know that the shortest distance between any 2 points is a straight line. And what I'm going to talk about today is specifically called straight line selling. Now, what is straight line selling? That's how to take a client from the open to the close elegantly, efficiently, and in a way that benefits them. And in our business, when we close, what happens? We get paid, right? So what is this straight line and how can we utilize it to our benefit? Now, the straight line is if a client were to say yes to every single thing that we say and every single thing that we ask of them, how to move them step by step by step by step, agreeing with us every step of the way, or what's called the perfect laydown sale, which only happens once in a great while until the close, and we get paid, right? So, however, we know that sales very rarely, if ever, go according to plan. Sometimes that client spirals off because they don't stay right on the line. They take us up to the top, they take us down below, they take us anywhere we're willing to let them take us in the spirit of building rapport, right? You like fishing, I like fishing. You like cars, I like cars. Let's talk about cars for 20 minutes. That's not building rapport, right? So oftentimes clients will spiral off where they're like, we're not sure if we're going to sell. We might want to go here. We might want to go there. We're not sure. And they'll end off in Pluto. Or they'll spiral down below giving us objections right off the bat. Over my cousins in real estate, they have their license. They're willing to do it for 2%, all blah, 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 down to Uranus. It's funny. That's how it was introduced to me. So I want to use it there. However, there are these certain healthy boundaries where you don't let them spiral all the way off. But within these little boundaries that we are able to set, where we remain in control of the sale, where we don't let them spiral all the way off, but we're still able to build rapport and we're still able to gather intelligence to help further them along this line till we get to the close. Now, again, structuring every single step of the sale in advance, because we can think through this strategically in advance to stack the deck in our favor. Because at the highest level, sales is really about the transference of emotion. One person feels one way, another person feels the other way, and one party influences the other. And when it comes to sales, specifically about choosing an agent to work with, the primary emotion that we are transferring is certainty. Now, in order for a client to be sold, they must believe you both logically and emotionally. A lot of the time people understand that there is a emotional element where people will often say, people buy on emotion, they don't buy on logic. Yes, they do. People absolutely buy on logic, and specifically they justify their purchase based upon logic. A lot of the times clients will say, or agents will say to me, hey, I don't get it. They seemed like they were all on board. They signed the agreement. They called me back the next day telling that they wanted to cancel. A lot of the time is because maybe you put too much emotional pressure, or in the moment they felt that level of certainty, but they couldn't justify it when that pressure was turned off. Now, when it comes to giving clients certainty, right? You have to give the clients certainty in a certain respect. However, it's not just should they buy or should they sell. Take that responsibility off of you. It's not your job as a real estate agent to convince somebody should they buy or should they sell. That's the one thing I do want to take that responsibility off your shoulders, because none of us have to actually live with the consequences of that decision. So it's not our business, it's not our job to convince somebody should they buy or should they sell. However, we absolutely must master the strategy and the skill set on how we can convince them and give them certainty around how they will get a better result with you compared to anyone else. Now, when it comes to certainty, people will think binary. I either do have certainty or I don't. However, that's not how certainty works. That's not how emotions work. There is a continuum of certainty. And we're going to use the scale of 1 to 10 just to keep it simple. 1 means I don't believe it at all. Not at all. 10 is I'm absolutely certain there's no other option except for this. The question is, when a consumer, when a prospect comes into the encounter with you, where are they on that level of certainty? Are they on a 1? Are they on a 10? Where are they? The answer is, we don't know. That is the truth. We don't know, because every single prospect engages and enters an encounter with us filled with preconceived notions, past experiences. All of that will play in a role on whether they're closer towards that 1 or whether they're closer towards that 10, depending upon their prior experiences and the beliefs that they have. But what we do know is that there's somewhere along this continuum, and our job as a salesperson is to take them from wherever they are to a level 10 certainty around certain key areas. Because again, every sale is the same when we talk about the core elements of what goes into the sale, meaning the inner workings of the safe are always the same. The numbers may change, as in they're numbers of certainty, but the types of elements, right? The core mechanics are always the same. And it's called the 3 10s. Each one of these must line up to a level 10 certainty to crack the code of that prospect's safe. The first one is your product, your service, or what I'll add in there is your strategy, meaning they have to be level 10 certain, both logically and emotionally, about your strategy to get their home sold. A lot of the time, what we hear at the end of presentations from consumers might be, well, I already know someone who will do it for less. Will you cut your commission to do it for less? And a lot of the time, agents will come to me saying, Jacob, how do I overcome this commission objection? Where in the reality, it's not about the commission. The reality is you have not given them a level of certainty that your strategy is far superior or even different compared to the other agent that they met with. So if you're trying to fight with them on commission, what you're really failing to do is differentiate and help eliminate any other possibility because of setting the level of level 10 certainty that your strategy is far superior than anyone else's. That's the first 10. And most of the time we fail at that because what we end up as agents doing is actually focusing on the second 10, which is about the trust and connection they have with you. All across every single study that's done by NAR or any of the other organizations that poll why they chose the agent that they worked with or how they chose how to even engage with a client, I believe it's slightly under 80% of the time that the agent ended up going with a friend, a family member, or a referral from a friend or family member. So a lot of the times we falsely believe that's the main point of where we need to focus our attention. However, this is what I'll argue, is we do that because we talk about ourselves more than we talk about any strategy. So we only end up closing the people who are already sold on you because of the connection they had with you prior, because that is a large portion, the connection they have with you being a level 10. However, most of the time, we have to fight on commission because we have not differentiated our strategy and we've leaned on the connection and trust with you. The third level 10 is the connection and trust they have with your company. Oftentimes overlooked, but there still has to be that level of backing that they believe if things don't work out with you, that there's something bigger behind that they can lean on and trust in the company. Now, a lot of the times, again, when we talk about objections, it's less about the actual objection that they give you, but all of those objections are really a smokescreen for a level of uncertainty that they feel. Meaning, I need to think about it. I need to talk to my wife. I need to talk to the other 4 agents that I've already scheduled appointments with. Will you do it at a lower commission? If we don't sell it in 30 days, can I cancel the contract early? All of those are a symptom of the bigger problem. And the bigger problem is they're not certain on your strategy, on you, and your company together. So when we think about it holistically, when we're leaning through and turning the dial of that safe, when we're listening to the clicks, we're thinking about the levels of certainty we're bringing to them in those 3 components, and any objection we get is really a symptom of our lack of certainty we're providing to them. A good starting point to put it into practical application is starting with your product or your service or specifically your strategy to get a home sold, because this is really answering the what do you do? A lot of the time, listing presentations are one of 2 things: a conversation all about you and your prior accolades, or the corporatized listing presentation from your company talking all about how great we are and what all the things we've done. Very small portion of the actual presentation is in what you will do to get your home sold, right? This is the base of everything, and this is most commonly missed. That doesn't answer the question of what will you do to get my home sold. This is where logical certainty comes into play. This is where that differentiation comes into play, into what you will do compared to what anyone else will do, because everyone talks about themselves, their prior successes, or their corporatized company listing presentation, not answering the questions that clients actually have. Because if this is missed, nothing else matters. Meaning this, if you spend your entire presentation talking about this grand strategy for this grand opening open house or this open house event where you're going to put all this marketing and all this, and we're going to funnel hundreds of people into your home on one afternoon, but the last time they had an open house on their house, someone stole a bunch of their valuables and they don't want to do that, how likely are they to choose you? Not very likely. So we want to make sure that we're crafting this logical, airtight case about why your strategy will work beyond any other strategy to give that base of logical certainty. And this is your first piece of homework. Before you end the day today, while you have this brief moment of inspiration, I want you to actually think through, what is it that you actually do for a listing? I challenge you. What is it that you actually do, not to get the listing, but when you get the listing, what sequential steps do you do, or what from this moment on are you willing to commit to every single time to give your seller that logical base of what it is that you specifically do? Because if you don't know why someone would work with you, they won't. Meaning, you're the person who knows you and your service better than anyone else. And if you can't think of a reason why someone would work with you, they won't. Or another way is, if you don't know why someone should work with you, they shouldn't. It's your job as a salesperson to have a level of certainty above anything that you will be coming into contact with, because they don't have a level of certainty that you can get the job done. So it's our job as salespeople to provide that level of certainty by going over what it is that you do, why it's going to work for them, and how it's going to get them a better result in the end. So the question I invariably get is, well, okay, so what do I say, right? If you've never heard of this, this is the 738-55 rule. That was a study that was done about how information gets communicated from one party to the next. And if you notice here, the smallest percent of actual communication of a message is done in our actual words. Only 7% of the message is conveyed through the words that we use. 38% is through the tonality in how you utilize your voice to project the emotion around it. And 55% of the communication is done in body language. And if you're meeting people over the phone, you don't have that 55% to play with. So all of that is done through your tonality or through the way you use those words. But it all starts with knowing the words that you'll say. Because without knowing the words, you spend all of your conscious mental bandwidth to search for the words in the moment. Meaning, if you've ever been at a cocktail party and you've been at a networking event and you've met somebody and immediately their name goes from one ear out the other ear because you're thinking about what to say next, that's exactly the reason why you don't want to do that, because you won't be able to truly listen to your client. And if you remember, what's the thing that an expert safecracker does? They listen for the click. And if you're spending all that time thinking, you won't be able to hear the all-powerful, all-necessary clicks of the engagement. And at the moment, that is the worst time to look for genius. That's why so many times we get inconsistent results. Sometimes when we wing it, we do a great job. And other times, horrible. Because when you wing it, you raise the probability of you saying stupid crap, right? And that's the last thing you want, especially in an important listing presentation encounter. Because the whole purpose of having a listing presentation or any linguistic encounter in sales is you, the salesperson, being absolutely certain that you are the perfect person for the job and will get them a better result than anyone. Because the person who you're meeting, more than likely, is not certain you're that person. And the words that we use and the presentation that we give are all designed as the strategy to convey that certainty from you to our potential client. Now, the problem is you cannot transfer what you don't have. If you've ever tried to do that on your banking app, you can't transfer from your savings into your checking if the money's not there. So that is number one challenge that I hear specifically for new agents or any agent that's in a slump is you lose that belief in yourself. And that's why we want to start with what is it that you'll actually do for a listing, because that'll give you the confidence that you know what you'll do, and then only talk about what you have confidence in. Number one, if an agent has come to me and says, I just set a listing appointment, I have to go on it this afternoon, what should I talk about? I'm not going to try to teach them the listing presentation in a few minutes. That's not going to work. So in the moment, I will say, hey, what's the one thing that you have confidence in? Talk about that. But now, since we have a little bit of time and you're in your moment of inspiration right now, take this moment of strategic preparation and start crafting the most elegant piece of information that you could convey when the moment arises, and then practice it until you have confidence in that. But if you get an appointment right now, only talk about what you have confidence in, because everyone's mom has told us this, or at least my mom told me this, right? It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Meaning if your mom back in the day said, clean your room, and you say, fine, you got in trouble, didn't you? Right? You came back and said, well, I said fine. And she said, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. Because when you're trying to convey information, remember 38% of that message is the tonality within those words, less than the actual words that you said. And one of my favorite quotes that I just learned recently was, nothing matters unless you make it matter. Meaning, don't go through your company's 154 slicks, and we also do this, and we also do that. On every single thing you talk about, a client in the back of their mind is going to think, so what? What does that mean for me? How does this benefit me? Don't just say, and we also do. Nothing matters unless you make it matter. Meaning, we do this because this gets you that result. And what this means to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is it will get you this. So every single thing you talk about must matter. Every word you use is valuable, or else it's fluff, it's unimportant, get rid of it, because you're being tested and you're being interviewed about why you are the best agent for them. So you need to project that level of certainty and project it to them so that way they can feel it, if that makes sense. Because remember, no matter what we say, no matter what slick we show, no matter what statistic we share with them, it's all about raising their level of certainty around what it is that you do, who you are as a person and a salesperson, and the backing of your company and trust to put it all together. And if you're a brand new agent and you say, I have no proof of concept, I don't even know what the heck to do, this is what you can put your certainty in. As a brand new agent, or an agent who's in a slump, or any agent who's just looking for growth, first thing to put your certainty in are your intentions. Meaning, are you really looking to do a good job? Because you can just take a stroll on the multiple listing service on your MLS and see the level of total sheer incompetence or sheer not wanting to do a good job for these clients, and knowing that you're going to do a better job because you want to. Your intention is to help, not hurt, and not just take. Another thing is your level of desire. Sometimes we just want it more. Sometimes we take a listing sheerly because we're more enthusiastic than the next person. Your desire to do a good job for them. Also, trust in your ability to figure things out. That you might not know everything single step of the way, but trust in your ability to figure out. And if you can't trust in your ability to figure things out, put your trust in your team. It's not just you. You all are connected with escrow officers, title reps, managers, everybody who's all a part of these situations and these transactions that want to see you successful, because you're the engine that drives the transactions for their success as well. So reach out to your team. Don't try to be an expert in everything, but have experts in everything. And ultimately, put your certainty in your company that they will help you further along this transaction to help you do a good job for your client, because we want to see you do a great job. And I know that we all want to know what's the strategy, what are the words, the perfect way to do that. I couldn't do that all in one video, but that's exactly what we're going to be going over for the rest of this month. So remember, the homework for today is map out what you actually do for a client or for a listing. Or if you haven't had one or you haven't done a good job in the past, from this point forward, what are you willing to commit to? Put it down on paper, write it out so you can have something to go back to. Because when I went through this, I was surprised at all of the things I was willing to do from that point on. And I started thinking to myself, wow, imagine if I shared this with a seller. Imagine how much value I could pack into a short, impactful moment to share with them all of the things that I would do, whether that's putting marketing pieces out to neighborhoods, door knocking the neighborhoods, calling all the people that you know, networking with other agents, networking with your team, networking with your company. What are the things that you strategically do, not just what your company does, not just doing the old 3 Ps of real estate, of putting a sign in the front yard, putting it on the MLS and praying that it sells, but what are you going to do to proactively bring buyers to the marketplace for that client? Now, there's nothing in life that is guaranteed, but this is one thing that I have found, is that success is absolutely guaranteed so long as you learn the skills that are required, you stay the course through all the ups and the downs, because you might be inspired right now, but I promise you, some days we wake up and life sucks. Escrows fall out, clients cancel, things change, markets change. There's nothing in life that's certain other than change, right? And if you're willing to work your tail off, and don't get me wrong, a little bit of luck is involved with all of this, but as the saying goes, the harder I work, the luckier I get. So remember your homework. Remember, we're here for your success. So I hope this was valuable for you, and I'll see you next time.